Sheba vs Ron, Hanayama vs the son of Kakukayo, your mum vs your dad and much more. This Baki spin-off manga that began in 2023 has now hit 10 chapters, the story of Sheba, which is starting to be absolutely peak. In chapter 6 we see Ron make an appearance. If you don't know, he was a fighter Kaku got to participate in the second half of the Chinese tournament, Team Yujiro vs Team Kaku if you remember, with Ron being regarded as this unbeaten fighter in the Chinese underground who faced Biscuit Oliver in this tournament. While yes, he lost that fight, next to Kaku himself, he's the only one who left a lasting impression on the fandom, doing decently well against Oliver, or at the very least, dishing out some damage. This is of course alongside the uniqueness of this fight, the hands in pocket exchanges. However, since then in the main manga, we have not seen him, no appearances, no real mentions at all, but now we are getting something cool. It's mentioned here that due to him being undefeated and feared in the underworld, he got the nickname as the Unchained, which I didn't remember being the case in the main story, but it's very cool looking back at his match against Mr. Unchained. Regardless, we see him walking down the street, likewise with Sheba in the other direction, pretty much giving us a chat off. Which one of the two is going to give way first? Their cigarettes begin to clash first, and then a headbutt as they pass through each other, like a ghost, which is in reference to, I guess, Ron's movement or fighting style, who proceeds to disappear as Sheba turns around to begin the real fight, with us getting some interesting context for the time frame this manga is actually set in, at least compared to the Baki main story. For example, Sheba compares Ron in this little exchange to Mike Tyson that he faced in the Maximum tournament, and then to Baki, who he faced many times before the Baki vs Yujiro fight, something that was adapted in the recent anime season, meaning it's taking place after that sometime, meaning it's either during the Masashi arc or Sumo arc most likely. But coming back to the manga itself, we see Ron arrive to his mate, Shunsei Kaku, the son of the master himself, when he was 120 years old, which is kinda crazy as a quick reminder. But as we know, he's the one who faced Baki in the Chinese tournament, or in the later half of the tournament, pretty much losing instantly, one of the fastest fights in the entire series, which was Baki right after recovering from his poisoning, so he really never stood a chance narrative wise. However, he also never had, I guess, another opportunity to show what he was capable of in the main story. But now we may get something more from him, or perhaps not, considering some unfortunate stuff I'll go over shortly. In the spin-off, we see him pass Ron a photo of someone to take out, like a hit, that being revealed as Sheba himself. We see them beat up some random goons to get information on Sheba's location, while cutting to Sheba, who runs into Hanayama in the street at the same time, and then it begins. The Chinese fighters are here. Naturally, we need the GOAT to have some peak showings. Hanayama begins walking towards them, somewhat slow, resulting them to instantly begin shaking somewhat, walking past them as a monster, representing a line they do not want to pass, but they quickly realize what's going on. Kaku-san follows Hanayama, and Ron follows Sheba to begin their fights. Yeah, Kaku-san is fighting Hanayama, we'll see how that goes. Ron notices right away that Sheba isn't really your typical martial artist, but he still has this aura about him that represents one thing: strength. Leading into Sheba's charge to begin the fight, that is countered with him being slammed on the ground, rising up and continuing to try with more attacks, but is dropped over and over, with some damage being dealt by Ron with these various attacks, leading into another interesting statement by Sheba. He claims that Ron is not on Baki's level, but this guy is an ultra class fighter, which is a good way for us to really scale Ron in the series, as during Sheba vs Baki, you could say Baki was already the second strongest, with this occurring right after the Pickle fight, where it was demonstrated that when it comes to all-out fighting ability, Baki without a doubt should be ranked above Pickle. I think most people agree with this at this point, and that is demonstrated as more the case as we develop further in the story, as this could be taking place sometime in the Sumo arc for all we know. Therefore, as a whole, the respect a lot of people in the fandom have been giving Ron is definitely well deserved, even more so now. But as their fight continues, we get the same outcome over and over. Sheba is taking an insane beating, as he typically does in pretty much all of his fights, but this time he's not able to land a single attack on Ron thus far. However, a key difference is beginning to occur compared to the start of the fight. No matter what attack Ron lands on him, the gangster does not fall down anymore, and is beginning to drive Ron back further and further, with him being forced to dodge and more so counter attacks now, until he finally hits a wall, forcing him to take this fight more serious, saying it will now be a fight to the death. And as expected, Sheba's been on this mindset since the beginning of the fight. The ultimate mad lad is here to show what he's capable of. Regardless of all this, the beating continues, with Sheba realizing that skill, technique, or ability wise in every regard, he stands no chance against Ron. But this is where he has something Ron doesn't. Sheba's admiration for the one who was born strong, and that's pretty much all he needs, with us cutting to Hanayama, who is preparing his almighty Giga Punch against his opponent, which we all know is most likely going to one-shot the son of Kaku, especially considering in this manga, Hanayama is pretty much viewed as the god by the protagonist. Sheba and Hanayama's whole dynamic. Kinda unfortunate this dude is going to get clapped again, unless of course he pulls a Hanada somehow. However, it looks like he's going to try and tank the blow outright, which just isn't going to happen. Now when it comes to Sheba, he's fully outclassed and is trying a new strategy. You could say version 2 of the hand in pocket fight has now arrived, highlighting Sheba's most powerful attribute, his unbreakable spirit, with him leaping into the air to go for another kick, and getting countered with a direct blow to the face that actually begins cracking his skull. But the absolute mad lad doesn't stop. Even while looking like this, he has gotten the chance to grab onto Ron's face, and he delivers a big headbutt with all of his spirit and guts. The first blow he has landed in this fight, using his face that was just cracked by the punch, wild stuff. With, as we know, this being very similar to how Oliver defeated Ron back in the main series. I guess my man has a super weakness to headbutts, and seems to get, I guess, incredibly unlucky. I'm expecting to at least get a little callback to that exchange and Ron pretty much losing the same way, but we'll have to wait and see, as unfortunately this is all we've gotten so far in the spin-off manga. Of course, Sheba's going to win this fight, likewise for Hanayama, but it's very cool to see all these fighters from the past in these various spin-off manga, to get an understanding of really how strong they are, and of course different matchups. How do you actually think Ron would go against the prisoners? Right now there's probably a very good argument to say he actually beats all of them. And speaking of the prisoners, Yanagi in the also ongoing Yorenchi side manga is pretty much an absolute demon and a weird guy, that's for sure. Apart from that, we also have the Retsu Isekai ongoing, the Gaia and Sikorsky slice of life, so a lot of stuff to check out. If you need chapter links or want to talk more about Baki, consider joining the Discord, over 8,000 members and counting. Subscribe for more, and of course shout out to the members.